The marketplace was alive with sound and light, thousands of voices weaving through the hum of airships, the clang of metal stalls, and the faint, rhythmic pulse of engines far above. To Marcus Hale, it felt like standing inside the heartbeat of a living world. Neon banners drifted overhead like electric flags, their colors bleeding across polished stone streets. He moved carefully through the crowd, his eyes scanning faces, most of them alien, some vaguely human, none familiar. He'd been planetside for only 2 days, working under a false name, hiding among traders and drifters. It was safer that way. At least it had been. Until now. Because when he caught the scent, faint, metallic, tinged with rain and ozone, he froze. It wasn't possible. Not here. Not after all these years. The scent grew stronger with the wind, stirring something deep in his chest. Not fear, but memory. It carried the weight of battlefields long since buried, of blood and fire and starlight. He turned slowly, and the world seemed to narrow to a single figure emerging through the crowd. She was taller than most, draped in silver and gold armor that shimmered like liquid metal beneath the sunset glow. Her hair flowed like pale fire, and her skin was the color of moonlight with a whisper of blue, faintly luminous where the light touched her. Her crown caught the dying sun, scattering it in every direction. The noise of the market faded into silence. She stopped moving, her eyes, impossibly bright, ancient and sharp, locking on him across the crowd. He couldn't move. For a moment, he was back on that frozen world, kneeling beside her fallen form, pressing his hand against her chest to keep her from bleeding out. The air had been thick with smoke then, the ground burning beneath them. She had looked at him the same way, not like a queen or a soldier, but like someone seeing a ghost. And now, years later, in the center of a foreign world, that same look crossed her face again. Her breath caught, her pupils dilated, and her body went rigid. "No," she whispered, barely audible, her lips parting slightly. "It can't be." But it was. Marcus could see the flicker of realization, of recognition, the instant she remembered. People noticed her stillness. The crowd parted instinctively. Whispers rippled like wind through tall grass. Everyone could feel it, the shift in the air, the tension born of power and memory. Her guards, clad in mirrored armor, turned toward her, uncertain. "Majesty?" one asked, stepping closer. She didn't answer. Her gaze never left Marcus. Then, slowly, she moved forward, each step measured and deliberate. The crowd receded as if pushed by unseen force. Marcus felt his pulse hammering in his ears, but he didn't retreat. He just stood there, breathing, watching her approach. When she was a few feet away, she stopped again, tilting her head slightly, as if studying him through centuries of distance. "Human," she said softly. The word was not an insult, not even curiosity. It was reverence. Marcus swallowed, his throat dry. "Your Majesty," he said quietly, inclining his head just enough to acknowledge her title. She frowned, her expression flickering between disbelief and emotion she clearly wasn't used to showing. "You survived," she said finally, her voice trembling on the last word. "You were supposed to be dead." He smiled faintly. "So were you." That earned him a breath of laughter, soft, quick, and almost human. The sound seemed to startle her as much as it did him. "How long has it been?" she asked. 7 years, he said. 7, she repeated, as if tasting the word. "You were different then." "So were you," he replied. Her eyes softened, and for the briefest moment, the steel melted. The queen of the ascendant host, conqueror of 13 systems, heir to the celestial throne, looked almost fragile. "When you found me," she said quietly, "I was dying. Why did you help me?" Marcus looked past her at the gleaming towers of the city, at the soldiers watching in uneasy silence. "Because you were bleeding," he said. "And because you asked me to." She smiled faintly. "You were the first to ever disobey me. And the last to live after doing it," he said. Her laughter this time was warmer, fuller, enough to make the onlookers uneasy. None of them had ever heard her laugh before. "You shouldn't be here," she said finally. "If they knew who you were, they'd kill me. Worse," she said, "they'd honor you, and I don't know which would be harder for you to survive." She turned away slightly, the edge of her cloak brushing the polished floor. "Walk with me." It wasn't a request. The guards hesitated but stepped back as she passed. Marcus followed, keeping a respectful distance. The market noise returned behind them, but only faintly, as if muffled by distance or memory. They moved through the outer corridors of the palace quarter. High arches, soft light filtering through crystalline panels, the air scented with rain and steel. "You remember the battlefield?" she asked suddenly. "Every moment," he said. "And what came after?" "You mean the evacuation?" "No," she said. "I mean what you said to me." Marcus hesitated. "I said a lot of things that day. Not words of command," she said. "The other thing." He stopped walking. She turned to face him, her expression unreadable. "You said," she continued quietly, "no one is born a monster." Marcus exhaled slowly. "I meant it." "I know," she said. "That's why I spared your world." Her voice softened, almost a whisper. "Do you understand what that cost me?" He nodded. "You lost your empire." "I lost my certainty," she said, "and I have not been certain since." They reached a balcony overlooking the city. Below them, the lights of the capital stretched endlessly, rivers of silver and gold winding through the night. "When I heard a human had come to trade," she said, "I thought it was rumor. But then," she turned her head slightly, her eyes distant, "I caught the scent of rain and ash." "And you remembered," he said. "Everything," she whispered. "The way you looked at me, the way you refused to bow, the way you carried me through the fire when I could barely breathe." She turned to him fully, her voice trembling. "Do you know what I felt that day?" "Fear," he said. "Yes," she said, "but not of death. Of you." Marcus frowned. "Of me?" "You looked at me and saw someone worth saving," she said. "No one had done that in centuries. Not even my own kind." She took a step closer, the faint energy field around her crown flickering like flame. "Do you still see her?" she asked. "The woman you saved?" He met her gaze. "I see her," he said. "I always did." She inhaled sharply, and the control she'd built over years of command slipped for just a heartbeat. Her hand lifted, then fell back to her side. "You shouldn't have come here," she whispered. "Every part of this city is a weapon aimed at me, and you are the only thing left that can break it." "Then maybe that's why I'm here," he said quietly. "To finish what I started." Her eyes glimmered, silver light spilling into the twilight. "And what was that, human?" "Reminding you that mercy isn't weakness." She looked away, the faintest smile curving her lips. "You always did say foolish things. You always did listen anyway." She laughed once more, softly this time, the sound almost swallowed by the wind. "You haven't changed," she said. "Neither have you," he said. "Liar," she whispered, stepping closer until the air between them seemed to hum. "Everything in me changed because of you." Her hand brushed against his, just enough to feel real. "And now," she said, "I must decide whether that was salvation or corruption." The wind carried the scent of rain again. Faint, electric, alive. The moment stretched, fragile as glass. "You already decided," he said. 7 years ago. "Perhaps," she said. "But even queens forget." Her fingers lingered near his, her voice barely audible now. "And you reminded me." The balcony lights dimmed as night deepened, leaving only the city's glow to paint their faces in gold and blue. The queen stood at the edge of the platform, the wind catching her pale hair and the silken folds of her armor. Marcus watched her in silence, uncertain if he was intruding on something sacred. Beneath them, the metropolis stretched like a living constellation, streets humming with energy, airships drifting between towers, the faint echo of music from distant plazas. It was beautiful in a way that almost hurt to look at, like something fragile pretending to be eternal. When I built this city, she said at last, her voice low, I thought it would be my legacy, a monument to order. She turned her head slightly. But order without compassion is only another kind of decay. Marcus said nothing. He'd seen that truth written across too many battlefields, in the faces of too many civilians caught between armies. I remember what your world was like, she continued. Gray skies, cold oceans. You people were always rebuilding, even when there was nothing left to rebuild. She smiled faintly, her gaze distant. You fought extinction with bare hands and broken machines. We still do, he said. It's what keeps us human. And what keeps you foolish, she said, her tone soft but not unkind. You don't know when to stop fighting. He looked at her then, his eyes steady. Maybe that's why we win sometimes. You call survival a victory? She asked. Sometimes it's the only one we get, he said. Her expression flickered, something between admiration and sadness. When you carried me from that battlefield, she said quietly, I remember thinking you were insane. You weren't wrong, he said. You could have left me there, she said. I was your enemy. You weren't, he said. Not anymore. You didn't even know my name. Didn't need to. And yet, she said, you remembered my scent after all these years. Some things, he said, don't fade. She turned away again, but not before he saw the faint color rising beneath her skin, a shimmer of light running through the veins along her throat. It was the alien version of a blush. They stood there for a while, the silence between them no longer sharp but alive, like the space between two breaths. The Queen's eyes lifted toward the horizon, where the faint shimmer of orbital defense grids glowed against the dark. They'll know you're here by now, she said. My council will not let this go unpunished. Your council, Marcus said. Or your guards. Both, she said. But the council fears you more. Me? He asked, almost laughing. I'm just a man. That's why, she said. You remind them that power can be defied by something smaller than faith. And you? He asked. Do I remind you too? She turned her head slowly, her expression unreadable. You remind me that faith can be misplaced, she said. Even mine. They descended from the balcony, the corridor ahead lined with tall crystalline columns. Each one shimmered faintly with inner light, humming in tune with the Queen's steps. The hall was empty except for the two of them, but Marcus could feel eyes watching from the shadows. Guards hidden in the architecture, drones suspended behind the panels. He wondered if they could hear the words being spoken, or if she had silenced the surveillance. When I took the throne, she said as they walked, they told me the universe needed a hand of steel. Compassion was weakness, they said. Order demands sacrifice. And you believed them? I did, she said, until I saw you kneel in the ash and put your hand on my chest. Her voice dropped lower. You didn't see a goddess. You saw a dying woman. Marcus's steps slowed. I didn't think of it like that, he said. You didn't have to, she said. That's what made it real. They reached the end of the hall, where two massive doors stood closed, engraved with intricate patterns of gold and silver. With a flick of her hand, they parted silently, revealing a chamber beyond that seemed carved from starlight itself. The walls pulsed faintly, alive with flowing patterns of energy. In the center of the room stood a single circular platform surrounded by floating runes. Your throne room? Marcus asked. No, she said softly. My prison. He frowned. I don't understand. When I inherited the Starforge, it bound itself to me, she said. Every decision, every command, every decree. It listens, it judges, it amplifies. It gives me strength, but it also watches. She stepped onto the platform, and the runes flared to life, bathing her in golden light. This place remembers every word I've spoken, every act of mercy, every sin. Marcus took a cautious step forward. And you brought me here because? Because you're the only one it doesn't understand, she said. It sees you as an anomaly, an impossible equation. Maybe it's right, he said. Maybe I don't belong here. No, she said. You belong here more than anyone. You remind me what this throne was supposed to mean. She extended her hand. Step closer. He hesitated only a moment before obeying. The light shifted when he joined her, dimming slightly, as if the system itself didn't know how to interpret his presence. What's happening? He asked. It's reading you, she said. Your history, your essence. That doesn't sound great. It won't hurt, she said, then smiled faintly. Much. He chuckled despite himself, but when her fingers brushed his wrist, he felt a surge of energy travel up his arm. Cold, sharp, and ancient. The chamber responded, the symbols swirling faster, the air alive with static. It's never done this before, she murmured. It's reacting to you. Should I be worried? No, she said, but there was a flicker of fear in her eyes. It's learning. The light coalesced around them, forming a sphere of golden mist. Within it, faint shapes began to appear, memories rendered as light. Marcus saw flashes of the past. The battlefield where they first met, her collapsing in his arms, the explosion that tore the sky apart. He saw her younger, standing in front of a vast army, her face proud and unyielding. Then the vision shifted, to him, standing over her with a weapon drawn, hesitating instead of striking. The queen's breath caught. It remembers everything, she said, even what we never spoke. What does it want? He asked. To understand why, she whispered. Why you spared me. Why I spared you. The energy pulsed once more, brighter this time, and the world around them blurred. Marcus stumbled, catching himself on the edge of the platform. But when he looked up, the throne room was gone. They stood in the ruins of a battlefield beneath a sky of smoke and fire. It's projecting our memories, she said, her voice distant. But this feels wrong. The air was heavy, the ground slick with ash. He recognized the scene. It was the day she nearly died. Only this time there was something different. The soldiers around them weren't frozen fragments of the past. They were moving, fighting, dying again. It's not just a vision, he said. It's alive. The queen turned sharply, scanning the field. It's testing us, she said. For what? Truth. Marcus watched as a shadow formed on the horizon. Tall, winged, glowing with crimson light. That wasn't there before, he said. No, she said. That's new. The figure descended slowly, landing before them. Its shape was vaguely human, but its face was featureless, smooth, carved from light itself. Identify, it commanded in 1,000 overlapping voices. The queen straightened, her chin lifting. I am Sarathiel, queen of the ascendant host, she said. And this is anomaly. The being interrupted. Human presence detected. Justification required. Marcus's pulse quickened. Guess that's me. It's a fragment of the Forge's will, she said. A guardian protocol. Friendly. Not usually. The being raised its hand, and a beam of light erupted from its palm, striking the ground between them. State purpose, it said. Redemption, she answered. Invalid, it said. Specify objective. Understanding, she said. Invalid. Then survival, Marcus said. The being turned its head toward him. Unquantifiable, it said. Yeah, Marcus said. We're good at that. For a moment nothing happened. Then slowly the being lowered its arm. The anomaly persists, it said. The system cannot resolve. Then maybe you should stop trying, Marcus said. The light around the entity flickered. Human defiance detected. Correlation. Origin of paradox. You're welcome, Marcus said. The queen stepped forward, her voice commanding. End the test, she said. He is under my protection. Invalid command, it replied. You do not command paradox. I am the paradox, she said, her aura flaring. I am the queen who loved a human. The being froze, its form shuddering. Statement exceeds logical bounds, it said. Love, she continued, is not order or chaos. It is both. Definition inconclusive. The being said, its voice fracturing. Then let me show you, she said. She turned to Marcus and reached for his hand. He hesitated only a moment before taking it. The moment their fingers touched, the battlefield dissolved in a burst of gold and white. They were back in the chamber. The energy around them had changed. It wasn't violent anymore, but calm, luminous. The runes floated slowly now, each pulse matching the rhythm of their combined heartbeat. What did we just do? Marcus asked. We broke the loop, she said. It can't quantify emotion. It's learning from us. So we taught it love? He said, half smiling. Something like that, she said. Her gaze lingered on his face, softer than before. Maybe now it will stop judging and start remembering. He looked at her, his voice quiet. And you? I'm trying to remember too, she said. The light dimmed, leaving only the faint glow of the chamber walls. For the first time in centuries, the queen of the ascendant host looked uncertain and free. When you touched me that day, she said softly, you gave me back something I thought I'd lost. What's that? He asked. Myself. You didn't lose her, he said. You just forgot where to look. And where was she? Here, he said, touching his chest. Where she always was. Her eyes shimmered faintly, and she smiled. A real one this time. You are still the foolish man who defied a god, she said. And you are still the god who learned to be human, he said. Outside, thunder rolled across the distant sky. The world beyond the palace was changing, though neither of them yet knew how. The council will come for me, she said quietly. Then I'll stand beside you, he said. They'll call you traitor. They've called me worse. They'll call me fallen. Then I'll fall with you. Her hand tightened around his. Do you understand what that means? I do, he said. It means we rise together. She laughed softly, shaking her head. Always the impossible human. Always, he said. And for the first time in her long reign, the throne room of the ascendant queen filled not with fear or command, but with something deeper, something alive. The city beneath the palace woke to stormlight and silence. A strange calm had settled over the towers of the ascendant capital, the kind that came before a reckoning. Lightning drifted lazily across the sky, webbing through clouds heavy with the shimmer of incoming fleets. Marcus Hale stood on the high terrace beside the queen, watching the horizon darken with engines. They're early, he said, his voice low. They were always going to be, she replied. Her armor caught the glow of the lightning, gold patterns rippling faintly along her chest plate. The council never sleeps when it's afraid. Afraid of me? He asked. Afraid of what I've become because of you, she said. Her tone wasn't bitter. It was quiet, almost reverent. You're the variable they can't solve, Marcus. You make me unpredictable. He exhaled slowly, watching the storm grow. So what's their plan? He asked. To take back what they think they've lost, she said. Control, purity, the illusion of order. You think they'll attack the capital? They already have, she said, nodding toward the horizon. Through the low clouds he could see it. A shimmer of gold and silver, ships of the High Ascendant Council moving in formation. Their descent was slow, ceremonial, almost holy. They want a show, Marcus said. They want to remind the people who rules them. Then we'll remind them who leads them, she said. She turned to him, her eyes glinting faintly. I will not kneel to them again. The wind picked up, carrying the faint hum of the city below. Whispers spreading through the streets, the sound of soldiers mobilizing, the distant roar of engines. Marcus's hand drifted to the sidearm on his belt out of habit. You know this can't end with words, he said. No, she said. It ends with truth. She looked at him for a long moment, the faintest smile tugging at her lips. You were always good at breaking impossible odds. You taught me how, he said. Then I suppose this is my test. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. If I fall, she said, promise me you'll survive. Don't ask me that, he said sharply. Promise me, she repeated. I can't, he said. Because I won't. The doors behind them opened, and one of her captains entered. A towering figure clad in black armor edged with gold. He dropped to one knee. Majesty, he said, his voice filtered through his helmet. The council fleets have reached orbit. Their envoy requests parley. Parley? She repeated, the word dripping with disdain. They want to shame me before they strike. Do you wish to refuse, Majesty? The captain asked. No, she said. Let them come. Shall I prepare the throne room? No, she said. The plaza. Let the people see. The captain hesitated but nodded. As you command. When he was gone, Marcus looked at her. You're making this public? Yes, she said. Because this isn't a trial. It's revelation. They made their way through the corridors of the palace, light flickering along the crystalline walls as the storm outside intensified. The queen moved with purpose, her presence enough to make soldiers and attendants part before her like waves before a prow. Marcus walked just behind her, aware of the eyes following him, the whispers that trailed in his wake. Human, anomaly, the one who defied death, the one she remembered. You could still run, she murmured without turning. You could vanish into the stars, live a quiet life. You could too, he said. I did, she replied softly. It was called ruling. When they reached the Grand Plaza, the storm had broken. Rain fell in silver sheets, turning the marble floor into a mirror of the sky. Thousands had gathered, soldiers, citizens, courtiers, all watching as ships descended through the clouds, their golden hulls reflecting the lightning. The queen stepped forward, the light catching her crown, and the crowd fell silent. Marcus stood beside her, unarmed now, though the weight of his past hung heavier than any weapon. They'll see us together, she said, and they'll understand. Understand what? He asked. That humanity isn't contagion, she said. It's cure. The first of the council envoys descended on a platform of light, tall figures in ornate armor, their faces hidden behind mirrored helms. At their center was the High Arbiter, his cloak trailing like liquid night. He was taller than the rest, his presence sharp enough to make the air hum. When he spoke, his voice carried across the plaza like a blade drawn from its sheath. Sarathiel, he said, you stand accused of corruption, heresy, and genetic deviation. The queen's voice was calm. I stand where I always have for my people. You stand against your people, the arbiter said. You defied the ascendant code. You consorted with an inferior species. His gaze turned to Marcus, cold and calculating. You let this creature infect your throne. Marcus met his stare without flinching. Funny, he said. You talk like a god but sound like a bureaucrat. A murmur rippled through the crowd. The arbiter's head tilted slightly. And you, human, dare speak in the court of eternity? I've spoken in worse, Marcus said. And I've buried better. Enough, the queen said, her voice cutting through the noise. If you've come for judgment, then speak it. But do not insult what you cannot understand. Then enlighten us, the arbiter said. Explain your betrayal. She stepped forward, the rain running down her armor like molten glass. You call it betrayal, she said. I call it evolution. Her voice rose, echoing off the high walls. You built an empire on fear of difference, of failure, of the unknown. But fear cannot rule forever. It devours everything it touches. You say purity defines strength. I say compassion does. Blasphemy, the arbiter said. Truth, she countered. This human you despise. He showed me that even in the smallest, weakest form of life, there exists courage greater than all your armies. You mistake defiance for virtue, the arbiter said. And you mistake obedience for strength, she said. Tell me, arbiter, when was the last time you bled for something you believed in? The arbiter's silence was its own confession. The rain thickened, thunder rumbling overhead. This ends now, he said. Surrender the throne and submit to dissolution. No, she said simply. Then you will die. She smiled faintly. Maybe, but not alone. The arbiter raised his hand, and energy crackled across his armor. The soldiers around him drew their weapons. The queen didn't move. Instead, she turned to Marcus. "Stay behind me," she said. "Not a chance," he said. Her smile deepened. "Still defying orders?" "Always." The plaza erupted into chaos. Blades of light clashed against shields of energy, the storm above amplifying every strike with blinding flashes. The queen moved like living lightning, her sword a blur of gold and silver. Marcus fought with what he could find, a fallen guard's weapon, a pulse rifle scavenged from the ground. They fought back to back, their movements instinctive, perfectly aligned. The air sizzled with the heat of plasma, the smell of rain and burning metal filling his lungs. "They'll keep coming," Marcus shouted. "Then we'll keep stopping them," she answered. Her blade carved through another soldier, her movements both beautiful and terrifying. When the arbiter stepped forward, the air itself bent around him. "Enough!" he roared, striking the ground with his staff. Energy radiated outward, throwing both of them back. Marcus hit the marble hard, his vision flashing white. The queen fell to one knee, her armor sparking. The arbiter approached slowly. "You think this ends in poetry and love?" he said. "It ends in ashes." He raised his weapon again, but Marcus was already moving. He tackled the arbiter from behind, the impact jarring his bones. The staff clattered away, energy flaring wildly. The two men struggled in the rain, the sound of their grunts drowned by thunder. The arbiter's strength was inhuman, his armor shifting like living metal. "You can't kill what's eternal," he hissed. "Maybe not," Marcus said, driving his blade into the joint of the armor. "But I can make you bleed." The arbiter staggered, the wound pulsing with light. "Impossible," he gasped. "Welcome to humanity," Marcus said. The queen was beside him now, her sword poised. "Move," she said. Marcus stepped back as she drove her blade through the arbiter's chest. The light flared, blinding, then dimmed to nothing. The plaza fell silent except for the rain. The remaining soldiers hesitated, then dropped to one knee. The queen stood over the fallen arbiter, her chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. "It's done," Marcus said quietly. "No," she said, staring at the horizon. "It's begun." She turned toward him, her armor cracked, her eyes burning with something fierce and uncontained. "Do you see it?" she said. "They're free now. Not because of me, because of us." He looked at her, the stormlight reflecting in her gaze. "What happens now?" he asked. "Now," she said softly, "we build something worth remembering." She took his hand, not as a queen taking a servant, but as an equal, and raised it to her lips. "You changed me, Marcus Hale. You changed yourself," he said. "I just reminded you what it felt like to be alive." Her smile trembled, caught between triumph and sorrow. "Then don't let me forget." The storm finally began to fade, the clouds splitting to reveal the pale light of dawn. Around them, the city slowly stirred, the people watching, silent and awed. The queen lifted her sword high, and its golden edge caught the morning sun. "This world belongs to all who would call it home," she declared. "No more blood for purity. No more fear disguised as law." Her words rolled across the plaza, carried by the wind. The people bowed, not from obedience, but reverence. For the first time, the queen of the ascendant host stood not above her people, but among them. Marcus looked at her, his chest aching with something he couldn't name. "You've just made history," he said. "History doesn't last," she said softly. "But memory does." She looked up at the sky, her crown dimmed now, her voice steady. "Do you remember what you told me once? That no one is born a monster?" "Yes," she said. "You were right." She turned to him, the faintest smile on her lips. "But some of us were born to be saved." The days that followed were strange ones, quiet, almost fragile, as if the universe itself were holding its breath. The storm had broken, the fleets had withdrawn, and the city stood between ruin and rebirth. The fires from the plaza had been extinguished, but their scent still lingered in the air like memory refusing to fade. Marcus Hale walked the marble corridors of the palace beside the queen, their footsteps echoing faintly in the silence. Every face they passed bowed slightly, some with reverence, others with uncertainty. He could feel it in their eyes. Change terrified them as much as it saved them. "They're afraid," he said. "They always are after victory," she replied. "Peace is the crueler test." Her voice was steady, but her hand brushed the edge of her armor where cracks still glowed faintly with golden light. Outside the tall windows, the city pulsed with a new kind of energy. Statues were being dismantled, banners replaced, words rewritten. Soldiers stood beside civilians, uncertain whether to enforce or protect. "You did this," Marcus said quietly. "We did," she corrected. "Don't romanticize it." "You changed the order of an empire," he said. "That's not romance. That's history." "History," she murmured, "is written by survivors, and I'm still not certain which of us will be one." Her eyes drifted toward the horizon, where ships moved slowly like thoughts too heavy to land. "The council won't stop," she said. "They'll send others. Diplomats first, then blades. Then we'll face them," he said. "Together." She stopped walking and turned toward him. "You still say that," she said, "as if you don't understand what together means here." "Enlighten me." "It means standing against eternity itself," she said. "Against a system older than your entire species." "Good," he said. "I like impossible odds." She laughed quietly, the sound echoing through the corridor. "You remind me of when I was still foolish enough to believe in heroes." "I'm not a hero," he said. "I'm just too stubborn to quit." "That," she said softly, "is the only kind worth following." They entered the observatory at the tower's peak, a vast, circular chamber lined with glass that looked out into the stars. The light from distant galaxies bathed the room in pale hues of violet and gold. The queen walked to the center, her hand brushing across a console embedded in the floor. The room responded, holographic projections blooming to life around her. A network of systems, worlds, fleets, all interconnected by threads of energy. "The Ascendant Core," Marcus said. "Your empire in miniature." "It was," she said. "Now it's something else." She touched one of the glowing nodes, and it shifted color from gold to blue. "Each of these represents a world freed from the Council's grip. But freedom," she said, "is delicate. It needs something stronger than fear to hold it." Marcus moved closer, his reflection mingling with the light. "You think they'll follow you?" "No," she said. "They'll follow us." He frowned. "Me? I'm not one of them." "You're exactly what they need," she said. "Proof that faith and flesh can coexist. That we can learn instead of conquer." "You're making me sound like a symbol," he said. "You are," she said simply. "The problem with symbols," he said, "is they burn bright and die fast." "Then we'll burn together," she said. There was no poetry in her voice, no softness, only truth. A shadow flickered across the projections. The queen's expression hardened. "They're moving," she said. "Who?" "The remnants of the council guard," she said. "They're regrouping beyond the outer colonies. If they rebuild their fleets, we'll stop them," he said. "No," she said. "I will." "You mean we," he said. She turned to him, eyes cold as forged steel. "No, Marcus. This time, I mean I." He shook his head. "You're not going alone." "If I fall," she said, "the message endures. If you fall, it dies with me." "That's not how partnership works," he said. "It is when one of us carries a crown," she said softly. He stepped forward, his voice low. "You can't keep shutting me out when it gets dangerous. I'm trying to protect you. And I'm trying to protect you," he said. "So where does that leave us?" She exhaled, closing her eyes briefly. "It leaves us standing in a war neither of us started," she said. "But maybe we can end it." She opened her eyes again, and for a moment, all the divine light in her seemed to fade, leaving only the woman beneath, the one who bled, doubted, remembered. "You're impossible," she whispered. "You're beautiful when you're angry," he said. She blinked, then laughed, shaking her head. You humans, she said, always defusing the apocalypse with charm. It's what we do best. Hours later, as the suns dipped below the horizon, the queen stood alone on the balcony overlooking the city. Marcus watched her from the doorway, his hand resting on the frame. She wore no armor now, only a long robe that shimmered faintly in the twilight. The wind caught her hair, sending strands of silver and white dancing around her. You should rest, he said. So should you, she said. Sleep feels foreign these days. That's how you know you're alive, he said. Is it? She asked. Because it feels like waiting. For what? For the universe to decide whether it can tolerate what we've become. He stepped forward, standing beside her. The universe doesn't decide anything, he said. People do. She turned her head slightly, studying him. Do you ever regret it? Saving you? He asked. Everything after, she said. No, he said. You. Every day, she said. And none of them. Her voice was soft, almost lost in the wind. You cost me everything, she said. And you gave it all meaning. Sounds like a fair trade, he said. You'd make a terrible diplomat. Good, he said. I'm not one. Her laughter was quiet, fading into the night air. You make it sound so simple, she said. Maybe it is, he said. Maybe you just needed someone to remind you that you don't have to carry the whole galaxy alone. And what if I don't know how to stop? She asked. Then I'll teach you, he said. The silence stretched between them, soft and familiar. The city lights below flickered like fireflies caught between breaths. The queen leaned against the railing, her eyes distant. When I first saw you again, she said, I thought it was a ghost. Maybe I was, he said. You're still not sure, are you? No, she said, because I remember what ghosts felt like. They didn't make my heart hurt. She smiled faintly. You do. He looked at her then, truly looked. The way her features softened in the dim light, the way her voice trembled when she let herself feel. You always were terrible at hiding your humanity, he said. And you, she replied, were terrible at surviving it. A soft chime interrupted them, the sound of a communication relay activating. The queen turned, her expression hardening. A holographic display appeared before her, the image of a soldier bowing low. Majesty, the soldier said, we have intercepted transmissions from the outer rim. The council remnants are mobilizing under a new leader. Who? She asked. They call him the Harbinger. The name hung heavy in the air. Marcus frowned. You know him? I trained him, she said. And he never forgave me for leaving the old ways behind. Then he's coming for you, Marcus said. No, she said quietly. He's coming for us. She dismissed the projection, the air humming as it vanished. We have days, maybe less, she said. Then we start preparing, he said. You don't understand, she said. The Harbinger doesn't bring armies. He brings faith, the kind that burns worlds. So what do? We remind them that faith isn't a weapon. You really believe that? He asked. I believe in what we are, she said. That's enough. She reached for his hand, the gesture simple but grounding. I will not lose this, she whispered. Not after everything. Then we won't, he said. Because whatever's coming, we face it the same way we survived everything else. Together. Lightning flashed again, distant but growing closer, painting their faces in pale light. You realize, she said, that if he reaches the capital, there will be no mercy. Then we'll make sure he doesn't. You talk like war's still simple, she said. It's not, he said. It's personal now. Everything with you is, she said softly. That's what makes you dangerous. No, he said. That's what makes me human. She turned to him fully, her expression unreadable. Then humanity might be the one thing left worth fighting for. He smiled faintly. You finally believe that? I do, she said. And I intend to prove it. Below them, the city hummed with the pulse of rebuilding and fear, unaware that the next storm was already forming beyond the stars. The queen's eyes lifted to the sky, her voice barely above a whisper. "He's coming," she said. "I can feel it." Marcus nodded slowly. "Then let him." He looked at her, his voice steady. "Because when he does, he'll learn the same thing you did." "And what's that?" she asked. "That monsters can bleed," he said. Her smile was slow, dangerous, and beautiful. "Then let's make him remember." The first ships appeared 3 days later, black silhouettes against the dawn. They hung above the capital like omens, massive, silent, reflecting the pale suns in their smooth metallic hulls. The people of the ascendant host gathered in the streets, looking upward, murmuring prayers that dissolved into fear. From the balcony of the palace, Marcus Hale watched them arrive, his jaw set. He had seen fleets like this before on other worlds under other skies. Every one of them had left only ruin behind. The queen stood beside him, her expression unreadable, her armor gleaming faintly in the early light. "He's here," she said. "The harbinger." "How do you know?" Marcus asked. "Because the stars went quiet," she replied softly. "He always travels in silence." The air vibrated, and a column of dark energy descended from the lead ship, striking the plaza below with precision. Out of the light stepped a figure, tall, cloaked, his armor matte black and etched with red veins of light that pulsed like a heartbeat. His face was hidden behind a mask of burnished steel shaped like an emotionless god. The rain began to fall again, faint at first, then steady, turning the marble beneath his feet into a mirror. He stopped in the center of the plaza and lifted his head, staring directly at the balcony. "Sarah Thiel." His voice was amplified, deep and resonant, echoing off the towers. "Queen of the fallen, come forth and face what you've created." The crowd trembled. The queen didn't move. "Stay here," she said. "Not a chance," Marcus said. "Then stay behind me," she said, stepping forward. When she appeared at the edge of the balcony, the murmurs below grew to a roar. The sight of her, tall, radiant, unbowed, was enough to steady the crowd's breath. "Harbinger," she called out, her voice carrying over the storm. "You come uninvited." "You invited me the moment you chose weakness," he said. "You turned your throne into a temple for the unworthy. And yet you stand before it," she said. "Tell me, old student, how does faith taste when it's poisoned by pride?" The harbinger's head tilted slightly. "Faith without purity is rot," he said. "And your affection for this creature," he gestured toward Marcus, "is the final corruption." Marcus felt hundreds of eyes turn toward him, but he didn't flinch. "Funny," he said. "You talk a lot about purity for someone hiding behind a mask." The harbinger's gaze turned on him, and the air grew heavy, the rain freezing mid-fall for a heartbeat. "Do you know what I am, human?" he asked. "A fanatic," Marcus said. "No," he said softly. "I am consequence." He raised his hand, and the ground beneath him glowed with red sigils that spread outward like cracks in glass. The queen's eyes narrowed. "He's drawing on the old code," she said. "The blood algorithm." "That doesn't sound good," Marcus said. "It's not," she said. "It rewrites reality until only obedience remains. Then we break it," he said. "You can't," she said. "It was designed to end free will itself." "Then we'll do what we always do," he said. "Make it fail." The queen leapt from the balcony, landing in a burst of golden light that cracked the marble beneath her. The crowd parted as she straightened, her armor flaring with energy. Marcus followed seconds later, using a repulsor tether to soften his fall. The harbinger stepped forward, his hand gripping the hilt of a long blade that pulsed with molten red light. "You taught me that mercy was a weakness," he said. "Now let me return the lesson." "You learned nothing," she said. "Then I'll teach by fire." He moved faster than Marcus could follow, his blade cutting arcs of crimson light through the air. The queen met him with gold and silver strikes, their clash lighting up the storm. Each blow sent shockwaves rippling across the plaza, shattering stone, scattering sparks like meteors. Marcus moved between collapsing pillars, firing bursts from his rifle to disrupt the Harbinger's focus. The energy bolts bent away from the man's armor as if reality itself refused to touch him. "He's shielding through the algorithm," the Queen shouted. "Then rewrite it," Marcus yelled back. "That's not how it works." "It is now." He sprinted forward, diving past a sweep of the Harbinger's blade that split the air where he'd stood a moment before. He rolled, came up behind him, and fired again, targeting the joints, the gaps, anything that looked vulnerable. The rounds flared harmlessly off red energy. "You can't break faith with bullets, human," the Harbinger said. "Then maybe you can bleed like everyone else," Marcus growled, grabbing a fallen spear and driving it toward the base of the mask. The Harbinger caught the weapon mid-strike and twisted, throwing Marcus backward. He hit the ground hard, pain flashing through his ribs. "You fight without belief," the Harbinger said. "That's why you'll die nameless." "Belief." Marcus spat blood and smiled. "I believe in her." The Harbinger turned just as the Queen's sword drove into his chestplate. The sound was like thunder trapped in metal. Red light spilled from the wound, hissing like steam. The Harbinger staggered but didn't fall. "You can't kill faith," he hissed. "No," she said, "but I can free it." She pressed her hand against his chest, her armor glowing fiercely. The light that spread from her palm wasn't gold or silver. It was something new, something alive. The red sigils on the ground flickered, their perfect geometry fracturing. The Harbinger gasped, his voice distorted. What are you?" "Giving you what you denied yourself," she said. "Choice." The light spread upward, crawling across his armor, dissolving the red veins into shimmering white. The storm above shifted, clouds parting just enough for sunlight to pierce through. "Stop!" he screamed, his voice breaking, echoing with 1,000 tones. "You'll destroy everything." "No," she whispered. "I'll save it." The energy exploded outward, a blinding wave of color that swept across the plaza. Marcus shielded his face, the heat washing over him like the breath of a newborn star. When the light faded, the Harbinger lay on the ground, his mask cracked in half. Beneath it was a face that looked too young for the weight it had carried, eyes wide, silver tears streaming down. "I remember now," he whispered. "You were kind once." "So were you," she said. He reached for her, then dissolved into light, his form scattering like ash caught in sunlight. The Queen lowered her sword slowly. The plaza was silent. Then, as if the entire world exhaled at once, the crowd dropped to their knees. Not in fear, but awe. Marcus rose, his armor scorched, his body aching. He looked at her standing amid the fading energy, her hair wild, her eyes wet. "You did it," he said. "No," she said. "We did." She turned toward the crowd. "Rise," she commanded softly. "There will be no more kneeling. Not before me. Not before gods. Not before fear." Her voice carried through the plaza, through the city, through the airwaves of 1,000 listening worlds. "We are one people now, no longer ascendant or fallen, divine or mortal. Just alive." The words rippled outward, rewriting something deeper than law. The crowd rose, faces wet with rain and light, the old hymns dissolving into new ones. For the first time in centuries, the Empire didn't sing of conquest. It sang of freedom. Later, when the fires of battle had cooled and the sun returned to its rightful place, Marcus found her again on the balcony. The light from the horizon bathed her in soft gold, her crown now gone, her armor resting against the rail beside her. She looked smaller without it, but somehow greater. "You always find the high ground," he said. "Habit," she said. "Old instincts die slowly." "So do old fears," he said. "But they do die." She looked at him, her eyes tired but alive. "Do you think they'll forgive me?" "Eventually," he said. "But you don't need them to." "Then who do I need?" "Just yourself," he said. She stepped closer, her voice quiet. "You never left me," she said. "Even when the galaxy told you to run." "I don't run from miracles," he said. She smiled faintly. "Miracles," she repeated. "Is that what this was?" No, he said. This was a choice. Yours or mine. Both. She looked away, her gaze lost in the distance where the sky met the ruined horizon. When you found me all those years ago, she said softly, I thought you were my ending. And now? He asked. Now, she said, I think you were my beginning. He took her hand gently, their fingers intertwining. So what now? He asked. Now we rebuild, she said. Without thrones. Without gods. And without monsters? No, she said. With them. Because they remind us what not to become. Her eyes shimmered faintly as she turned toward him. You taught me that mercy doesn't erase what we are. It just makes us more. Then I guess you finally learned how to be human, he said. And you, she said, learned how to be divine. He smiled. I'll settle for lucky. They stood together as the suns rose higher, the light turning the city's broken towers into columns of flame and glass. Below them, people moved like rivers of color, rebuilding, planting, singing. The sound rose to the balcony, a soft and steady chorus. Listen, she whispered. That's what hope sounds like. You gave it to them, he said. No, she said. We gave it back. She turned to him fully, her voice soft but unshaking. Do you still see her? Who? The woman you saved. He smiled. I never stopped. She leaned forward then, her lips brushing his just once. A moment caught between breaths, between worlds. When she pulled back, the light around them flared, gold mingling with silver until the air itself seemed alive. Then remember me like this, she whispered. Not as a queen, not as a god, just as the woman who remembered what it meant to be saved. Marcus touched her face, memorizing the warmth beneath his hand. You're unforgettable, he said. Good, she whispered, closing her eyes. Then maybe I'll finally live forever. And as the suns climbed above the reborn capital, the wind carried their laughter across the sky. Two voices, human and divine, indistinguishable in the dawn.